Hey everyone, James Wilson here with Pedaling Innovations and MTV Strength Training Systems. And today I wanted to share some thoughts that I'd had when I was playing around on a wobble board about how a wobble board actually helps show us what the best foot position is for balance and movement on our bike. And so a wobble board, this is actually a homemade one that I put together myself. But basically a wobble board, you've got a board sitting on something in the middle, and you got to balance. So if you think about it, this is pretty similar to balancing on your bike. You've got your feet on either side, something in the middle, and you have to balance it, and you have to maintain that balance. So again, it's not a perfect price. Not like your feet aren't split. There's some differences between a wobble board and a bike, but the principle of using your feet to balance something in between is the same. And so when you're on a wobble board, it's easy to see that it's very hard. So I'm going to get here, you can see where my feet are. Pretty much the only way for me to balance on this thing is with a flat foot position. So this is one of the reasons you see like surfers and skateboarders, they use this flat foot position because you can't balance properly if you get up to the ball of your feet. As soon as I get to the ball of my feet, it starts to get way harder to balance and move. And so actually I'll go ahead and use, this one's a little easier. It's got the two in the middle. And so again, this doesn't work. I can't use a wobble board if I try to balance on the ball of my feet. It's a lot harder for me to maintain my balance. And then if I try to move, if I'm trying to squat, especially if I'm trying to squat or do a hinge or something like that, if I'm trying to move on the wobble board, now it's impossible. I cannot do these things nearly as effectively on the ball of my feet. It's much harder for me to maintain my balance and move smoothly, right? So, but here's the problem. When we're on our bikes, we have this extra balance point called our handlebars, right? And so if I put an extra balance point in front of me, a stick in front of me here, well, this changes things. Now I can come on the ball of my feet and I can use this stick to compensate for it. And now it's easier for me to do my movements because I've got my stick to help give me the false sense of balance. But I'm not really balanced on my feet. I'm having to use this stick to create that sense of balance. But the problem is now my upper body's active, right? Like my upper body's having to use this stick in order to compensate for my unbalanced foot position. So if I took this stick away, if I'm moving and I take the stick away, you can see it immediately becomes a much different thing for me. And so this is one of the reasons that riders don't notice how unbalanced being on the ball of their foot is on the bike is because they have this third balance point and even a fourth balance point when you add in your seat. If you sit down and you got your hands on your handlebar, you're able to compensate for a lot of imbalance in the feet. And so, but anyways, if you take those compensation points away, like a wobble board does, you immediately see how your foot position is affected. Again, you can try this yourself, go, you can either make one or, find something, wobble board or what do they do, the endo boards, right? Or similar as well. Like they're so much harder if you're trying to balance and move being on the balls of your feet versus having your feet down. Again, this is why you don't see skateboarders, you don't see surfers trying to balance on the balls of their feet. They've got their feet down because that allows them to balance. It also allows them to move effectively. Again, on my bike, if I want to be able to use my hips to absorb impacts, I need a balanced foot position. If I go up to the ball of my feet like this, and I'm bouncing on the ball of my feet, it's much harder for me to absorb impact and maintain my balance. And again, if you've got handlebars, it compensates for that. So anyways, so that's that's really kind of the take home lesson there, is that when you get your body off of the bike and you get rid of that other balance point, your handlebars, you can see how unbalanced that foot position really is. And it also highlights how unbalanced small pedals are, because you'll see, again, like not having both ends of your arch supported and able to apply even pressure through your foot, how unbalanced that feels really becomes highlighted again when you take away that third balance point. And again, you know, when you're using your handlebars too much to compensate for that, the lack of balance at your feet, again, now you have to use muscles. Your muscles can't act as stabilizers. They can't, you know, tighten up to help stabilize and balance the body and also be able to move effectively. Your muscles can't do two things at the same time. They can't stabilize and move. And so this is why, one of the reasons that it's important. Like, some people are like, well, who cares? You know, I don't feel unbalanced. When I have the handlebars, I don't feel unbalanced. So what does it matter if I'm, you know, really balanced at my feet or not? But that's why it matters, because that false sense of balance has a cost. And that cost is that your upper body is stiffer, and so it's not able to move as smoothly, or it's also metabolically active. So if you're, you know, in some sort of, you know, like endurance, you know, cycling sport, man, after a few hours, you know, your upper body's all tight. You're wondering why. It's like, my neck hurts and all this stuff. And it's like, well, it's because you're having to compensate for how unbalanced your feet are when you're on the balls of your feet and or using small pedals that don't support your foot properly. So so again, you know, looking at how we move off of the bike, how does the human body optimally move off of the bike, and then looking at how we can apply that to the bike is the best way to go about this thing. And unfortunately, the cycling industry has kind of done this backwards in the past and looked at the bike and then said, well, if we were going to design something from scratch to power this bike, what would we have it do? But unfortunately, that's not how the human body moves. We're an organism. We come with preset ways of moving, preset ways of balancing and you know, moving through space. And when you try to screw with those things, it usually doesn't work out well. And so, anyways, if you get better balance with your feet, then you're going to be able to move better, using less energy to keep yourself balanced and stable on the bike. And so, anyways, like I said, try it out yourself and see what you think. If you don't think that doing squats and hinges on a balance board on the balls of your feet is easier than doing it with your feet down, then I guarantee you the same things is happening on your bike, you know. So give it a shot. But anyways, you got any questions or comments or anything like that, feel free to leave them in the comments below. I'll get to them as soon as I can, or you can hit me up at james@pedalinginnovations.com. Always happy to help. And yeah, you know, I'm just trying to help spread some good information, let people make up their mind for themselves. But anyways, hopefully giving you some stuff to think about, and I will talk to everybody next week.